Okay, I'm sat here with Anita Navan, who's the head of the School of Sport and Exercise at Gloucester here. We've been talking to people quite a lot about change and leadership. And you've been head of school for a while and you've been involved quite a lot of change. What have you seen as most effective when you're trying to lead people through change, when that process is going on and there's leadership to really be done? What have you seen in that context helps to kind of it happen more smoothly?
I think there's a key element in terms of ensuring that you communicate the rationale so that there's a clear business priority, there's a clear reason, a clear rationale. It's not directed at an individual person, but it is a clear business need and a business priority that change needs to occur. So that is really critical to make sure that it's communicated well and the message is really transparent to everybody concerned. If you don't give them the rationale, then it can become quite personal for them, or they perceive it to be a personal threat against them, the person, as opposed to maybe changing the kind of work that you're expecting them to do or the kind of position that you want them to be in. I think probably the personal one for me is around communication. So making sure that you sell the message firsthand, that you are there to really speak face to face with individuals. I think where you hide behind an email or you potentially allow someone else to pass on the message or someone has passed on the message, then it can be misinterpreted. So for me, it's trying to get there first, be the primary voice and the primary giver of the information, and where possible, face to face is critical.
So although you say you don't want people to feel they're personally being kind of targeted for who they are and things, that sounds like from a leader's point of view that they need to kind of have some personal responsibility in terms of visibility and status.
And and sharing the responsibility. Yeah. So as long as it's really clear that you've been very honest with them, that they trust your call, that I always believe you must always give them the negatives of change as well. So potentially if it's a reduction in staff or it's extra work that potentially is coming their way, not pushing them over the limit, but equally a greater expectation, then they have to know the consequences, the impact is critical. So it is really about making sure that they are with you at the start of that journey, that they ask the questions, you give them time and you show a certain empathy, because people come with different emotions. So it's a bit of a roller coaster. Some people will be very angry, some get very upset, some go through the whole journey of the emotion in one meeting. And I think for the leader themselves, they just need to remain focused and calm, be very calm, even though you might be raging, really anxious inside, that you're giving a difficult kind of message at times with change, that you just try and just keep that focus, keep that calmness about you, so that they can actually just feel a little bit more secure in what can be a very difficult environment for them.
And kind of flipping it around a bit, talking about some of the kind of best ways to approach change and kind of things that can make it work a bit more smoothly or less painful for people. In your experience, have you kind of come across approaches or examples of things that really don't work, that seem to kind of really trip up the process of trying to make it smooth and effective?
I think the communication, obviously, the making sure that you are around, you're visible is key, because you can sell a message face to face, then disappear. And if people can't see you and don't know that you're around, but you're in it with them, and I think you've got to be around them. You can't hide away. You can't close your door permanently. That they need to just know that you're sharing that kind of difficulty, the challenge, some of the barriers that are there, even though it's from a very different lens. You're seeing it very differently because you're leading the change, but equally you are sensitive to them. And it's trying to see what they're struggling with from their own sort of lens as well. So it's easier to be the leader and potentially think, well, I'm okay, I feel focused, but sometimes you don't, but equally they will be feeling it in a very, very different way too. So trying to understand where they're coming from. And if they are angry, it's not necessarily directed at you, the person, either as the leader. It's the situation that's brought that on.
So very much that you would hope that staff, that because of the way in which you're clear and the explanation that you give and the rationale, don't feel hugely kind of personally affected by that. So the things that the leader has to face in that, they also kind of think is part of the process and not necessarily as personal as well. So they're all both able to kind of be really clear about what's happening.
Yeah, and it's every step of the way making sure that you update, so it's not just one message, let everything roll through. Lots of rumours always filter into what might happen next, so at every junction just make sure that you give the clarity. If you hear a rumour, rumours escalate, and it's often just people asking questions, being a little bit unsure, so trying to have individuals that might just look out for some of those rumours that might be around where people are feeling uneasy, but making sure you're the message, you sell the message wherever possible firsthand, and just being available, I think, is key.
And I think the thing that comes out of talking with you is not only about the kind of clarity of that message and the kind of being there, being visible, but it seems that an important feature of that is also consistency, is kind of you taking the same kind of approach, of visibility and presence and clarity, and just even if it's quite challenging given the amount of other things people have to do, that keeping that, making sure that remains the case throughout the process.
Yeah, definitely. And staff will want to ask you questions. They'll want to know if they're a priority, or they'll want to try and get some kind of comfort in, am I safe, or is my role staying? So even if you're just changing the work programme, some of them really want to know all the answers, or to try and dig out the answers from you, and you just need to remain really neutral and just give them their encouragement. I often put it back to them to say, well, reflect on your expertise, reflect on your skill set, your experiences. If they're challenging themselves around, will they still be here through a change process, or will the role that they really enjoy still be around? So I think getting them to reflect and really develop a bit of confidence in terms of themselves through a change process, keep sort of instilling confidence in them. And people deal with it in very different ways, but just asking them to really try and keep focused, keep positive, because the business still runs on through a change process as well. So if everybody is pretty much getting themselves down, getting themselves quite anxious, then what are our students doing? So I think that's been a real learning point, is to try and just ensure that you do communicate business as usual, but being very sensitive to the needs of the people that are facing this kind of uncertainty.
Thank you. Thanks ever so much, Susie.